Welcome to the Darkstream. I'm VoxDay, voxday.blogspot.com, and Infogalactic News. How you doing tonight? Happy Monday. We've had a great day at Castalia. I don't know if you're aware, but we just launched for pre-order. The Corroding Empire. And it's going very well. I don't see. This is exactly what I was talking about. These shirts, they're kind of too heavy, and the sleeves just hang. You know, I like the ones that we do at Crypto Fashion better. But this is, you gotta like the Atari. Anyhow, it's been a lot of fun. Thanks to those of you who have pre-ordered the Collapsing Empire, or not the Collapsing Empire. Those who have pre-ordered the Corroding Empire, and it's doing really well. It's in the top 1,000 on Amazon already, and it's been good. No, I mean they always look a little bit strange. That's why I was very particular about the T-shirts that we did for Crypto Fashion, and so hopefully one of you just mentioned that you just got the T-shirts, so I hope you like them. But yeah, the Atari's a classic. I'm actually looking forward to this Retro Sigma engine. I backed it on. This shirt is just huge, but I backed it on Kickstarter, and it's really it's got like the 2600. It's got the Sega stuff. It's like the ultimate emulation machine with classic controllers that you can hook up to your modern TV. So that's pretty cool. The only thing that's missing, and it's too bad they don't have it, is I'd love it if they had an Intellivision on it, but that would really require a different controller. So. Yeah. Anyhow, I have this shirt. Atari actually sent it to me years and years ago, and I don't wear it very often, but I just happened to grab it from the closet tonight, and I was thinking about games. As you may know, I'm a game designer. I've finished work on some projects recently. I've also I've got a new project that is about to start, and there's a couple ongoing projects that I'm doing with some of our dev teams. And the key, one thing that a lot of people don't realize is that game designers tend to be pretty good game players, and that's because as a game designer you necessarily have to analyze the rules of the game. It's basically second nature for a game designer. Just the same way that a filmmaker tends to watch a movie and pay attention to how things are done. Anyone who does something tends to pay attention to how these things are done. Well, if you're a game designer and you're used to writing rules yourself, you have a tendency to look at the rules. That's why with Rabid Puppies, we knew what was going to happen. Not only do we know that we would dominate the thing going in, but we knew they would have to change the rules because it was the obvious play. And so, but one thing that's been a little bit disappointing with the God Emperor's administration so far is that they don't seem to have a very good ability. They don't seem to have a very good ability to anticipate what the other side is going to do. And what that says is that they don't appear to have a very good understanding of the rules of the game that they now find themselves in. Donald Trump did an excellent job. He clearly understood the rules of the game of the Republican primary, and he clearly understood the rules of the game of the presidential election. he handled those things masterfully. He had different campaign advisors for different points in the campaign. He made the right moves, he listened to the right people, and that sort of thing. Now, what's different about his presidential administration? What has changed? He's got the same people around him. He's got Bannon around him. He's got he's got Jared Kushner. He's got these very smart people. But what I suspect is the problem is that I suspect that the God Emperor was anticipating that there was going to be an amount of respect for the office. I assume that he thought that he was going to get more obedience out of the bureaucracy. You got to remember, Donald Trump is coming from the private sector. Now there's a lot of different issues in the private sector. When you're paying people for things, that doesn't mean that they're going to do them. It doesn't mean they're going to be particularly loyal and that sort of thing. But they do have a lot. He's used to that. He knows how to read people in the private sector. But people in the public sector, and I'm not just talking about the deep state. I mean, everyone likes to talk about the deep state and that sort of thing. Now it's like, the political term of the season. But it goes beyond that. The political animals and government employees are very, very different creatures than private sector people. They have very different motivations. They have very different attitudes, and they respond differently to different incentives. And so, the rules of dealing with government are very, very different than the rules in the private sector, dealing with people in the private sector. And so I think that despite the fact that they knew there would be opposition, they knew there would be media opposition, they knew there would be internal bureaucratic opposition, I suspect that they were not fully ready for it. It's not just about it being harder to manage. It's not really necessarily any harder to manage if you're expecting it. I mean, think about how many people understand that the media is on the other side. They understand that the media is opposed. And yet, they still pick up the newspaper and assume that the media is telling the truth. Now, you can't do that. That's why I called my book SJWs Always Lie. You have to assume that they're lying about even the most obvious, easily disprovable things. I learned this when I was, I chronicled this in SJWs Always Lie when I was dealing with John Scalzi. It never occurred to me, never, that he might be lying about his traffic. I never, it didn't occur to me. I've been running a blog longer than this guy had, or maybe about the same period of time. I'd always had a counter, a site meter counter, up on my blog from the beginning. And anyone at any time could just click on it and see exactly how many page views I'd gotten that day or that month or whatever. I wasn't hiding anything. And so, when I saw him reporting on his numbers, you just assume, okay, well, that's probably accurate and whatnot. And the thing is, the numbers that he did report at the end of the year were accurate. It was just that the numbers that he reported to the media were always false. They were always exaggerated by, as much as a factor as 20, if I recall correctly, depending on how you wanted to look at it. But, and now the thing is, why would anyone do that? Why would anyone, in talking to the New York Times or in talking to a science fiction magazine, tell them that they had 2 million page views a month, when at the end of the year, 4 months later, they report that they had whatever it was, 5 million for the year. Okay, I mean, it doesn't even make sense. Now the thing is, anyone who is paying attention to both, and I was not, and clearly no one else was. Anybody who is paying even a small modicum of attention would have realized that it's not possible to get 2 million a month. I mean, it's theoretically possible to get 2 million in a month and 5 million for the year, but that doesn't make any sense. Barring some external factor that didn't apply. And so, as soon as I started looking into it, it became very obvious that, wait a minute, this person is habitually lying every time they talk to the media. Okay? So, and that was a real, for once, I'm not meaning to pick on the guy here. I'm just giving you an example that I know very well. And I'm pointing out that this behavior is normal. This behavior is what the people in the media do. And it's not just people in the media, it's also people in the government. That's why they I think it was it Rumsfeld that talked about how they shape reality? And that's what they mean. When they say they shape reality, what they're really saying is, we lie about reality until we make, it was Rove, that's right, Karl Rove. We lie and we tell you what is false is real until it becomes real. Fake it till you make it, like somebody just said. And so, that's what we're seeing right now in the media with all this shrieking and talking about Russia. The reality that they want to make come to pass is some form of war with Russia. And so they're telling all these absolute falsehoods about Russians hacking the election, Russia attacking Ukraine, Russia attacking Britain, or Russia threatening Britain, all of these things. It's all false, and we're seeing the same thing. The other narrative that they're trying to establish is that Trump is crazy. They're trying to establish the idea that he's just unsuitable for office, that he's psychologically unstable. They have the no, they're not. I mean, they're not trying to justify violence against Trump supporters. They don't care about that. What they care about is Trump. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to destabilize him. Now, of course, they're all fine with the threatening Trump supporters, but again, that's about Trump. They are trying to isolate him. And again, you're right. It's not they're trying to create the perception. And now, is this false narrative working on the public? I don't believe so. Is it working on you? Is it working on anyone you know? Most of the people that I know, that I talk to, think the media has gone crazy. They look at this stuff and they find it impossible to believe. Now, of course it's working on the left, because the left accepts the narrative. I don't believe that I'm sure it works on some people, but I'm just saying the average, it's going to probably work on the baby boomers. The baby boomers are conditioned to accept, the gravitas of Walter Cronkite. And so, the problem I think that Trump has is that he has to he can't spend his time governing and communicating. And so he needs some better spokesman plural. This Sean Spicer guy is completely out of his league. He's good at sort of the generic press conference thing, but they need people who are willing and able to go out and confront the media, who don't want to be friends and pals with the media. No, Milo would not be right. Someone like Ann Coulter, someone like Mike Cernovich, someone like Laura Ingraham, they would all be good at this. No, Sheriff Shapiro would not be good at this. He's hopeless. I would not be good at this. I'm a little too. I'm not verbally facile enough, and I talk over the head of most people. But someone like Coulter, someone like Cernovich, someone who is quick. No, Dana Perino would. I mean, I love Dana Perino, but she would not be good because she wants to be part of the media, and so, and this is just one aspect of it. The larger aspect is that Trump needs to understand that the rules are very different now than they were during the campaign. Because during the campaign, they didn't really believe he could win, and they didn't really believe that he was going to be a serious danger to them. And what he has to do is he has to use the power of the bully pulpit, and he has to use the powers that he's been given, and he has to use them against his enemies. And the more aggressive, again, a lot of people, you got to keep in mind, Trump is not alt-right. Trump is a civic nationalist. So what does that tell us about him? What do we know about him? It means that he fundamentally has a desire to win the other side over through reason. It means he wants unity. He wants people to be able to come together and be friendly. I don't think that he wants their approval. I think that he wants them to meet him halfway. He's a negotiator. He's the guy who wrote The Art of the Deal. But the important thing is that he has to understand that there is no negotiating with these people. And so that's I believe that he will be extremely effective once he understands that the rules of the game have changed. The rules no longer involve negotiation, but they involve the use of power. And so what he has to grasp and what he has to do is begin utilizing the power and the influence that he has. I have no doubt that he's absolutely shocked at how unreasonable they are. That's a very, very difficult thing to understand. It's not until you experience it for yourself that you realize that, oh my goodness, that there's no point. It's like trying to reason with a brick wall. You cannot do it. It doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter how flawless your dialectic argument is. It doesn't matter that your logic is impeccable. It makes no difference. And so so what we'll have to see, let's get rid of these trolls, shall we? I think that he already is. I think he already is pissed off. I mean, they were showing those pictures. I think CNN or somebody had those pictures, and they showed him being angry, and they were, trying to portray it as him being angry with Priebus and Bannon. I don't think so. I don't think that he is. I don't think that he is angry at them. I think he is angry, and he is desperately hoping for them to figure out what they need to do. They're trying to come up with a strategy. And I hope, the thing is, Bannon, I believe, generally understands this. And so, Priebus, I have absolutely no doubt, does not understand it and finds it very difficult to accept. And so, there's nothing wrong with what Priebus, even though he's an establishment guy, you need establishment people. You need people who can handle operations. But ops guys are not strategists, and they can't. They're constantly trying to manage things and work things out and cut the difference and all that sort of thing. I think that Priebus is fine for managing the schedule and that sort of thing, but I don't think that he has any ability whatsoever to I don't think he has any ability whatsoever to even grasp what's going on with regards to the opposition media and with regards to the internal opposition. You can't believe the stories, but there are numerous stories that are being leaked out about Priebus not being able to manage things and trying to micromanage and all that sort of thing. I think that Priebus, like Spicer, is in somewhat over his head. He needs to be there, but he probably isn't the right guy to be managing the priorities. And he's certainly not the right guy to deal with the level of intransigent opposition that they're running into. And so, as long as Priebus is loyal to Trump, he can be effective. But again, it's about the rules of the game. If you need a home run hitter, you can't have an underpowered shortstop coming to bat. The underpowered shortstop might be what you need in the field or stealing a base or something, but he's not going to hit the home run that you need. And so, what we'll need, Trump is a quick study. Trump is a very smart guy. I believe that the anger that he is exhibiting is actually the sign that he is waking up. And how will he learn the rules? He'll learn the same way any game designer learns the rules. You just look and you observe and you see how it works. He now knows that, like they were saying when they were talking about what he was, let's get rid of the trolls again. The thing that he needs to do, or he thinks that he's already done, the reason I think that he was angry is that he was looking at the speech they did to Congress. It went very well, but the media managed to sidetrack it to something negative. Well, that's going to happen. That's absolutely going to happen every single time. Here's the thing that he needs to accept. The media is never going to give him the benefit of the doubt. They will never, ever speak well of him. They will never, ever acknowledge anything that he's done, no matter how positive it is. If he does something, if anything happens that's negative, they will spin it as his fault. If anything that happens is positive, they will claim that it was the result of something else that had nothing to do with him. I see this all the time. One of the ways that I know that something I've done is successful is the very people who proclaimed what a failure it was when I started doing it suddenly start claiming that I had nothing to do with it. I mean, I knew that Castalia House had become successful when people stopped talking, linking me to it. And so, I knew that Infogalactic was getting successful when people suddenly stopped talking about how, it was my big failure. Suddenly it has nothing to do with me. And so, I always view that as a positive. As soon as I see people, not talking about me in association with something successful, I realize that, they now perceive it as a success. And so, what I think we need to do is we need to put out the message, it's time for Trump to be Trump. It is time for Trump to cut loose. It is time for Trump to stop being reasonable. It is time for the God Emperor to go God Emperor on them and stop attempting to unify and work together and deal. And that way lies failure. One of the things that I point out very clearly in SJWs Always Lie is that the left will only become reasonable after you beat them over the head. After you beat them over the head, then suddenly they're willing to, usually they're willing to just do whatever you want, because they operate on a very simple, crude basis of pain avoidance. And if Trump inflicts more pain on them than they feel from their social pressure and their peer groups, then they will suddenly behave. Then they will suddenly do what he expects. But as long as he exhibits any weakness, as long as he tries to negotiate, as long as he tries to reason with them, they are going to continue to attack and behave irrationally. So, anyhow, that's my talk tonight. Thanks for stopping by. If you want to support, our massive trolling of Tor books, I encourage you to pre-order the Corroding Empire. Well, you can credit Johan Kalsi, Finland's finest science fiction author. So, anyhow, thanks again, and we'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow night, most likely. Have a good evening.